ready.
Perfect. All right, man. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you doing this with me. I really do, man. And we met like 3, 4 years ago, almost.
In
2019.
19,
Yep.
the end of
at
19,
Crossroads.
yeah.
Yep. And so you've been a huge inspiration to my recovery, and you were sponsoring me for a long time, and you taught me a lot of things. And you've really changed as a person, man. So do you want to introduce yourself? And
Yeah, my name's Eric Anthony Drummond. Um, Today I'm a family man. I work honestly for a living today. Um, got a lot of God and solid people in my life who, inspire me. And hopefully I could do the same for the other people that are in my life. Hopefully my life could be an inspiration to them too, you know.
Yeah, perfect, man. Thank you so much. And man, I know you have a crazy story. I know we could stay here for a while, man. But do you want to kind of summarize, or talk about how your life looked like before your roles that you have now, right? Like being a family man. Like
Yeah.
how did your life look like before recovery, man?
You would never guess today, but you're looking at a 9-time felon, a dude that suffered through chronic homelessness, real violent dude in my past. A lot of prison yards, a lot of jail time, a lot of hurting myself and other people around me, especially the ones that I love. I like to gain trust and promise things that, were inevitably not true.
Right. Yeah.
And, like the book says, we win back the trust of our families and to tear it all back down.
Right.
We build up these structures and then we tear it all back down, right? That was me constantly. I used to have a lot of hate in my heart. I hated everything. I hated my stepmom, my stepdad, my dad, my mom. So I embraced the streets, and the streets, obviously where I grew up in North Long Beach, 5 minutes away from Compton, they're not nice streets. And I was a minority where I grew up. So if I was going to run the streets, I had to do it well. And, and I did a pretty good job at it, burning my life down to the ground.
Right.
An ex-meth addict for 23 years on drugs and alcohol, and you would never know today. That's the beauty of it.
Right.
Yeah. One of the coolest parts about it is that I'm not the guy getting looked at by Walmart security anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that guy. I could go to Ross, I could go to here, I could go to there, and nobody's double guessing my motives today.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel real good.
That's
Yeah.
good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect intro, man. I appreciate that, man. So, you were homeless right before you got sober. And so do you want to talk about what that looked like? How did you get help, or what happened there? Right? Like, how did you go into recovery, right?
Yeah, so I got, some people say arrested, I say rescued, right?
Yeah.
They put me on drug court, so I probably have like 5 drug possessions on my background, and like this 5th or 6th one, Phoenix was like, oh, we want to send you to jail or prison for like 9 years, and then my public defender was like, I'm celebrating 20 years as a public defender this year, and he's like, I could get you a program. He's like, I told him my story. He asked me about my life and what it had looked like leading up to this arrest. And he's like, I really think I could get you into a program. He had me write out this mitigation packet of what my life looked like, and how I grew up and how I was treated and all this stuff. Asked me I remember it asked me about if I ever seen shadow people and do I still see them.
Right.
You know, like that was like, and it had brought up so much stuff that I'd been pushing out of my life.
Right.
But it was kind of crazy, and he got me the program. And so I wasn't actively in jail. Like they sent me to jail, and then they OR'd me on my own recognizance. So I'm running the streets, getting high, and I'm going to this court process, and I finally get this program, and I go a few times, and I remember my ex and me got in an argument. I'm like, F that class. I'm not going to that class tonight. And then I didn't go to the next night, and now I'm paranoid. I'm thinking my PO's going to be waiting for me, you know. So I just stopped going for like 9 months. And one day I was flying a sign, which is crazy. I had forgotten my meth pipe I was getting high, and I was taking a bird bath out in this spot. I used to use their hose, and I took the train to go fly a sign for money on the side of the freeway, and I forgot my meth pipe there. But the cop, when I got there, I didn't even get a chance to fly. I had wrote my sign, and I ripped it out to the size I wanted it, and then I put the cardboard on the ground, and the cop had seen me litter. So he pulled me over, and he asked me my name, and it's just better to tell the truth. You know, I'm all it through the, you know, and as he was running my name, I walked away, and I walked across the street, and he pulled around. He's like, hey, and I started running, and I really never run from cops. Right. You know, it's no, you know, I'm busted. I'm usually like, okay, you know, take me in. I'm usually tired and hungry anyways. And so, anyways, I go to jail, and then for 4 months, they send me to Crossroads. Yeah. And I'm doing good. I do good for like 17 months, and I'm about to get off of probation, and I'm about to graduate drug court. Right, yeah. And then I relapse. But I wasn't doing Alcoholics Anonymous. Right. I wasn't doing God. I was just complying with what the courts wanted. Right. And I had gotten my own apartment, and within like 3 or 4 weeks, I was getting loaded. So I'm the type of dude, I do well under supervision. Right. You know, I could comply, you know, but as soon as I got my own place, it was all over with. And so like the next 9 months, I was getting loaded, and then they sent me to a rehab. I did 30 days there, and I'm like, okay, cool. In my mind, I had never done Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know how fucked I was, right? And I just thought I needed, literally, I remember in my innermost being, I just thought I needed to be away from the drugs. And this 30 days was they helped me get back on my feet, and I could just finish off probation and get off of drug court. And but that wasn't the case. And I left that rehab, went to a sober living, and within another week I was getting loaded. And now I'm living this sober living, and I'm manipulating the place, and I'm testing dirty, and then I'm going to another sober living, and then another sober living, and because I kept this job I had, and so I was able to pay rent, so they weren't suspicious about me getting loaded, you know. But eventually, you know, they're gonna be suspicious, and because there's no halfway doing meth, you know what I'm saying? And anywho, they sent me to another treatment, and I ended up in Crossroads in the end of 2019, and I just remember those dudes being so happy. The ones coming in for the meetings, Ian, John, Jonah, all these dudes that looked like me, and like they had my story, but their own version of it, dealing with chronic homelessness, you know, multi-felon, you know, hurting family members, but they looked happy and they were sober, and I just wanted I wanted what they had, you know, and there was something in me that was like, you know, well, you have to do something anyways, or else you're going to go to prison for I think it was like 6.5 or 9.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already done 10.5 years. I did 2 years as a juvenile,
Right.
and then 8.5 as an adult already. And it'd been since 2012 since I've been arrested. I actually went like in prison.
Right.
And it just scared me. Like, so I really, before I even worked with anybody, I knew I only had two options.
Right.
I was going to listen to these dudes and do what they say because obviously it's working for them, or I'm going to go back to prison and possibly die a drug addicted death.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through those steps, and I found out those were still my only two options. That I'm either going to die a drug addicted death, or I'm going to live on spiritual principles. And for me, the God idea was never a big deal. I always believed in God. I mean, God took the hate out of my heart
Right.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was mad at God because I was dying of this drug addiction, and he took this hate out of my heart, and I didn't hate people anymore. But I was still dying from this drug addiction that was killing me and causing me to cause all this harm in other people's lives. I mean, I wasn't as bad as I was when I was hateful, but I'd still rob you.
Yeah.
You know, the violence stopped, but that doesn't mean I didn't physically intimidate people. You know, I'm not a small dude, you know, so like, and so I was mad at God for all this time because I knew he was there and I knew he was real, and he softened my heart, but I was still running the streets.
Right.
And but I found out, being introduced to this program, that I had work to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just all on God. It's
Right.
that like I really had I had a lot of shit I had to fucking deal with, you know, as far as like looking back and manning up and owning up to all these things that I've done, and all these people that I've hurt, and reaching back out and trying my best to make amends to all these people, especially my sister. She's the only family member that's still alive. My stepdad I hated because he beat my mom. And like, I waited a couple years before I made an amends with that dude, because I wanted to do it face to face, because I truly forgave this man who used to beat my mom, and he used to like trample around the house. If I can't sleep, nobody can sleep, and I truly forgave this man. And you know, he wasn't all that bad. Like, he had hit my mom a few times, but like in my mind as a kid, like, oh, he used to beat my mom. Like, you know,
Right,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
told
yeah.
myself, you
You
know?
had like that victim.
Yeah.
Like, sort of, you know?
Yeah. And then when I got there to my sister's house, and him and her and my stepdad lived together, I made an amends. And like, I had this pocket, like $800 in cash I was going to give him, because I had done so much stuff, and I had robbed him and broke his car winch and broke doors in house, you know, just all kinds of stuff. And I figured, like, this is at least what I owe him, right?
Right.
Financially.
Yeah.
And so when I went to go make my amends, I pulled out the cash. I was like, I did some calculation, and I was like, I think this is, you know, about what I owe you.
Yeah.
And he's like, put that money away. He's like, that's not what this is about. He's like, Eric, this is what it's about. And he pointed to me and my sister. And he was like, I've been rooting for you this whole time. He's like, I've been waiting for you to get your life right, you know? And that meant a lot to me. Like, I thought this dude was my arch enemy for life, you know? And like, I'm sitting here and all three of us are crying like little babies. And it was just, and this is the first time my sister had ever seen me sober
Right.
in her life. Like, she's 8 years younger than me. So like, So like when she was 5, I started getting high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh wow.
all she knew of me was
Mm.
my fucking brother's a drug addict dickhead, you know,
Right,
and
right.
who used to kick her off her computer so I could play poker and when she went to bed, watch porn and shit, you know,
Yeah.
and fucking, it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, man. So, man, that's beautiful, and thank you for sharing that, man. Because you just showed the process a little bit of what it's like to go through the 12 steps, and I wanted to shift towards right, like, can you talk about what happened? Because I know that like you got a little bit stagnant,
yeah.
and or I don't know what happened, right? And do you kind of want to talk about what happened before your relapse, after being introduced to the program, like how your life looked like, what you stopped doing, and
Yeah.
what happened essentially?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I waited for like 13 months before I started dating. And because I figured I've been on drugs for the past 23 years. If I just go run into a relationship, I don't even know who the hell I am sober.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
how selfish would that be of me to go, run up on, women
Right.
and like that was the last thing. I really wanted to get this right this time, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I did kind of like I was doing my upon awakening. I still wake up. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't even have to be at work until 7. I wake up at 4:30. I'm at work at 6:30. Um, but back then, I'm waking up early so I could pray and meditate and talk to God and read spiritual literature, read the Bible, daily devotion, whatever I'm into at that morning for that time of the season,
Right.
and. And then being of service, being a part of, hanging around with a bunch of dudes, newcomers, and the dudes I strive to be like in the
Right.
program,
Yeah.
So it was like, at first it was like I was just hanging out with dudes I wanted to be
Right.
like.
Yeah.
And then like when I,
But you had something to offer.
yeah,
Right.
and then running around with Craig and all the newcomers that, he
Right.
likes to hang
Right.
around with to keep around. And then, yeah, and being a service commitment home group, multiple home groups, multiple service commitments. I managed the sober living for like
That's right.
a little over 2 years,
Yeah.
and and then I kind of like replaced God with my girl when I met my wife, and then I stopped doing a lot of things. I started sacrificing what got me my new life
Right.
for this woman that I was falling in love with. And within like 4 months, maybe 5 months, I got high. And like my wife's a normie and she came all the way out here from Nicaragua on her, you know what I'm saying, with a 6-year-old kid.
Right. Yeah.
Like she doesn't play. And she told me, she said, and I had a 1-month-old baby when I got loaded.
Right.
And I remember calling her up and saying, I'm not coming home. And she's like, why not? I was like, because I got high. And then she kept calling and calling until I had to turn off my phone because I was, that was my only explanation because I got high.
Right.
And then I get home and I was hoping that would be the first and last time. A few days later, I talked my way out of work, and then I had like 3 or 4 hours before I had to be back at home. So I went back and got loaded again, but this time I brought it home. And she's like, Eric, if you don't stop this, I'll leave with the kids, and I don't care if I don't have a place to go. And I believed her, and it scared me. And like, we're married. my stepson's 7 years old at the time, and he calls me dad,
Right.
and he loves me, and like that's a big deal for me because I
Right.
hated both of my step parents, and he
Right.
calls me dad. Like,
Yeah.
and that's like,
I've heard. Yeah.
yeah, and then that the baby, and then my wife, like. So I was like, I can't fucking do this, and I checked into Crossroads for a week. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I was the only one working at the time, so could I have stayed longer financially? Yeah, I could have stayed longer, but I didn't leave with bad motives. I busted out my steps real quick, and I got back into action,
Right.
and I just celebrated a year in September.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a quick two time spurt, but like that never happens,
Right. Right. Right.
you know.
Yeah, that's rare, man. And yeah, man, that's beautiful, man. Like, and so thank you for sharing that. Because man, that happens a lot, you know, to a lot of people. Where I mean, it happened to me. It happened to a whole bunch of people I know, right? And I notice that it happens often. That you know, God starts blessing me with this life and these materialistic things, and I start worshiping those things instead of God, which is the thing that gave me those things. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And then when I get loaded, those are the first things I lose.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like those are the very first things I lose. You know, especially the shit that He blesses me with in here. You know, like that's the very first thing that leaves.
yeah,
That peace of mind. You know, that feeling of fulfillment, right? Like it's like that. That's the first thing that leaves before I even get loaded.
for
You
sure.
know?
Yeah, that has to go for me to get loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if I'm
exactly.
okay inside, I'm not gonna get loaded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, man, what? I'm trying to see where we can take this, man. How has sponsoring been, and how has it affected you in your recovery?
You know, back in sober living, back when I wasn't paying rent because I was managing a sober living, I sponsored a handful of dudes at all times.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I was only working like 25 hours a week,
Yeah.
and that was enough to get by because I wasn't paying rent, and
Right.
like so I was able to give back a lot of myself, you know. But as my life got more fulfilling, you know, I don't got a busy life. I got a full life.
Right. Yeah.
My life started filling up, I'm down to sponsoring only one guy at any given time, right?
Right.
But there's nothing like the feeling of watching a dude's eyes light up when he gets it. And when I say that he gets it is that like he realizes that he's fucked. Right?
Yeah.
like it's a like come to Jesus moment, right? When you really have that first step experience and realize like I have to have something different,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And because I can't get nobody loaded and I can't keep nobody sober. All I could do is give back what was given to me, and it's all written down in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And but it is my obligation to give that back.
Right.
You know, 12 step doesn't say if you think you're ready enough,
Yeah.
or if you've had a year or longer of sobriety. No, it says after 11, this is 12, and go out there and give this information to the next man, right? Regardless, right? And as long as you go out of the recipe, you know, what was written in that book, you can't go wrong
Right.
because it's there. And the more you work through it, the more you look up those old word definitions from the 1930s, the more you of an understanding. And like, I don't know how many times I've sat down with dudes and went over a certain step and was thinking to myself and even told on myself, like, damn, I really needed to hear this today. Right? Because this is where I'm lacking.
Yeah.
Or this is where I'm not turning my will and my life over to the care of God because I'm working on step 3 with this dude, right? And or like I'm not, I'm not doing 10 steps as like I should be, but I'm telling this guy he's got to do his 10 steps, and I'm realizing like, man, I'm lacking here,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it says this is we practice spiritual principles, not perfection, right? Because I wouldn't need God and I wouldn't need spirituality if I was perfect, and that's the beauty about us living in this situation, is that like I am always going to need God. And I'm always going to need to be of service to other people, because my God tells me that I'm not here to live for my life. I'm here to live my life for Him, and He wants me to help others. Right? And as long as I'm willing to help others, and sponsorship may not be my strongest suit right now, because I only keep one guy in the book, but trust and believe I do a lot of other things to help people.
Yeah.
And, I regularly help homeless people, right? On this past Thanksgiving, my son we help so many people. I mean, I'm not like boasting or bragging on myself, but we help enough people to where my son on Thanksgiving was like, "Hey, Dad, let's go feed some people." Wow. I was like, "Heck yeah, let's do that. Good idea, son." So I didn't even need a Thanksgiving dinner. We cooked it, and then we went and we gave it out where I used to be homeless in downtown Phoenix, and my wife was the only one who had a plate. Me and my son, we didn't even have Thanksgiving dinner. I literally went home and ate top ramen. But that's cool. That's okay with me.
Awesome.
That's okay with me today. So if sponsorship, helping people out, being of service, holding service commitments, all that stuff is getting out of self.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it definitely, man. And just like you said, man, I'm robbing myself out of an experience, when I'm not sponsoring someone. And if selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my troubles, there's nothing more selfless than going and sitting down with a guy that doesn't even know how to fucking love himself.
Right.
And just trying to teach him the way that it was taught to you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so selfishness is the root of my troubles. That's a solution right there in itself, because it's a selfless thing to do that, and it's very beautiful, honestly. So yeah, man, we'll kind of I'll give you one more question, man, and then we'll kind of end it at that. What is something that has either helped you in your sobriety, something that somebody said to you, an advice that has been given to you, or something that you've heard lately that you have been living by?
Probably discipline. I know my sponsor John is like, these things don't come easy. It's a discipline, and I've been a real routine dude my whole life.
Right.
Fucking jails and prisons. It's real routine. You know what I'm saying? I get into a good routine, and but I could fall out of it and get into that bad routine too of not living the things I'm supposed to be living out. Just knowing that this isn't gonna be easy. It's a discipline. I didn't learn how to stay high overnight. It was a discipline for me to be able to stay high all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So if I take that same discipline and apply it to this new way of life, I can't fail.
Right.
And in that short 4 or 5 months, I lost discipline. I got loaded. Right? And so that's why personally I'm up at 4:30. I'm in bed by 9:30. I'm tucking my kid in at 9. I'm wrapping the last half an hour up, and I'm in bed. And because of the way I live my life, I'm asleep at 9:40.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I got an easy conscience today. So just finding out what works for you. Maybe you're not a morning person, but you're taking your lunch break and reading something spiritual, or
Right.
or getting with God, or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't really think anybody's really a morning type people. Like, it's just
Yeah.
some people make themselves get up and do. Anyways, just disciplining myself and keeping a solid discipline. Um, that's it, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, man. It means a lot, and you inspire me a lot, and I really look up to you. And yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing this.
I love you, brother.
Yeah.